rolling. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Welcome to another week of Live at 5. Today is Monday, the 10th of May, and the 43rd day of the Omer. I almost lost track of the Omer. You know, it happens. There's so many days of the Omer. 43rd day, cruising down to the finish line in just a little bit less than a week. It's very exciting. And thanks for joining us. Here I'm sitting over here in the Great Lodge of the YMCA at Estes Park, where we were earlier this week, and it was really warm and cozy. And I felt like today, this cold, wet Denver day, that we should have a little warm and cozy. You know, everybody needs a little warm and cozy. Now, I thankfully here in Denver, we don't usually suffer from wet and cold like this very frequently. And I usually, would make me complain, but a kvetch. But the other day I was talking to someone from Seattle, and this is like a gorgeous day in Seattle. You know, this is normal Seattle weather. This is it. The best, as good as it gets. Actually, I joke, in the summer, apparently it gets really beautiful and green and sunny, but a lot of the year is like this, a little bit like London. And they changed my perspective totally. So person said, no, a cloudy day is like a hug. It's cozy. And I like that a lot better. It's not wet and cold and damp and dank and moldy. No, it's a hug. It's like it's cozy. So we're having a nice cozy day, but me, I'd rather be curled up by the fire over here. This is more like what I consider cozy, or you could just sort of like, rub up against the, the taxidermy. Anyway, I hope you all are feeling healthy and well. And, I gave today's show, a title of Raining Down All Around Us, because unfortunately, if you've seen a little bit of the international news, missiles have been raining down on Israel unfortunately, from Gaza pretty much all day, and all kinds of rockets, even rockets in the center of the country and in Jerusalem. There were even as early as 11 this morning their time, which was before we even probably woke up. There were rockets that had rained down. One of whom was intercepted by the Iron Dome missile shield defense mechanism, because that probably means it would have landed. It had not been intercepted. It was headed for a populated center. Some others fell in the less populated area and were allowed to fall to the ground. There was a massive fire raging on top of the Temple Mount. I don't know if that was related or not related. And all of this amounted to a very disrupted Yom Yerushalayim. Today is celebrated in Israel by many as the day in which Jerusalem was returned to American hands. And so that's called Yom Yerushalayim, Jerusalem Day. And it's it's a holiday celebrating a very important place, Jerusalem is a very important place to us. It is our eternal homeland and has been for thousands of years. And yet, to this very day, it remains a place of strife. And the news reports that I saw were really upsetting and unfortunate, as people who were who had come to celebrate, and with live music and some parades and things, were instead fleeing, from fear because of the air raid sirens that were going on, and things were the celebration was broken up, and very, very, very unfortunate. There's lots of news back and forth. I wanted to just speak to that a little bit today before we get into the show. I was also reading a beautiful article. I got it on the JNS, the Jewish News Syndicate, which I think I don't know how old it is, but I've recently discovered it. It's a very, I think it's a very worthwhile place to find out, what's going on in the Jewish world. JNS, Jewish News Syndicate. If you're looking for a good news source, you can get a daily email digest. And actually yesterday, there was a very nicely written piece that it gave us more of a perspective to try to understand a little bit of the current turmoil that's going on this week and this weekend in Israel, and particularly in Jerusalem. So let me just give you the basics. There is a neighborhood Shikjara in the Arabic, which is otherwise in Hebrew known as the Shimon HaTzadik neighborhood. And it happens to have been right across the street from where I lived for about 7.5 years, literally right across the street. Okay. We could walk over to the historic tomb of Shimon HaTzadik. It's called the neighborhood of Shimon HaTzadik, Simon the Righteous. And because he is is one of the great sages of the Mishnah, and he's quoted frequently. So his grave site is a very significant thing. He's been there for almost 2,000 years. Happens to have been right across the street, and there was a neighborhood around it. So there has been a legal dispute for many years that's going on. I don't even know how many years that's gone through the Israeli court system over the legal ownership of several homes. I think it's as many as 8 homes in that area. Now, that area, you should know, has been a place where Jews have obviously lived for, and if you go way back when the city of Jerusalem was populated by many, many, many Jews thousands of years ago, it was a neighborhood of the Jewish people. But even in the 19th and 20th centuries, there was always a Jewish population there, and even a majority Jewish population. However, in the 40s, the 1940s, where when the fledgling state was being launched and recognized, at the time, there was there were some military attempts to cleanse the area of its Jewish residents by the surrounding Arabs. Now that led to the following dispute about who owns these homes. So if you have as far as I read, you have several families who have legal proof to their ownership of these homes that dates back to the Ottoman Empire and certainly under the British mandate in the 19th and well into the 20th century. Now you have currently, those families having been sent out by force. These families have these homes have been taken. The very same home has been is being currently lived in by various non-Jewish families, Arab families, who have no legal proof to they're basically squatters in a home where the Yemenite Jewish owners were pushed out. So this has been through the courts. And the courts have heard all the arguments, and it's gone up the ladder, and it's a high court issue. And the high court issued a ruling end of last week to say that there are no legal grounds to accept the current owners as the legal owners of their house. They have no ability to prove their legal acquisition of these homes. And so their squatter status is being rejected in favor of those who do have proven legal ownership of the properties. It amounts to 8 homes. And the court decided that those people are going to give the Yemenite Jews that sued to be reinstated in their homes have won. And so they will be reinstated in their homes. What happened? So this has led to an international uproar and wide criticism of Israel for who knows what, for what exactly? It's hard to understand exactly. So the whole of the city of Jerusalem now becomes gridlocked in Arab rioting. And when in advance of Jerusalem Day, when police forces and Israeli security forces try to keep the peace, they get criticized. This is a legal decision, but not even by a very conservative legal system in Israel, but even a more liberal legal system. There's no legal grounds for them to continue for these Arabs to continue living in these homes in the Shimon HaTzadik neighborhood, which has been traditionally a Jewish neighborhood for thousands of years. And so now when these homeowners are being repatriated and given their homes back at the end of a legal process. That's why we have legal processes. And so, the way to respond to that is with a riot. The fact that the world is looking for any opportunity to jump up and to criticize Israel is frustrating and absurd. It makes no sense. There's no reason for it. It's simply absent the facts. absent the facts, and you can criticize whoever you want. But if you look a little more closely at the facts, you'd see that the facts do not in any way, shape, or form warrant criticism of Israel in this particular case. They just simply don't. Now, but the problem is that then triggers, and I think there may be other factors. I read another headline which seems to indicate that it could be that some internal political struggles in Gaza between Hamas and the alternatives are triggering their attempt to to flex their muscles against Jerusalem, against Israel, and for their own political purposes, whatever they have to show their own populace in order to maintain or to solidify their own rule. So therefore they start lobbing missiles all over the country. The whole, you see the map of where all these missiles landed, dozens all over the country, and it's a completely unacceptable state of affairs that we should have have a neighbor launching missiles over the border at us, and of course there will be retaliation taken, and it has already been, and there may be more. It reminds me, and with this perhaps we'll close and move on to something more interesting to talk about, because this we could talk about this over and over and over again, because it seems like it's unending. Somebody emailed me this morning saying, my kid is planning on going on a summer trip to Israel. Should I be worried? Should I cancel the plans? And I said, no, this will blow over, because unfortunately, this is like the recurring pattern. We see it over and over and over again, and very likely it will blow over, because these kinds of things, unfortunately, have Israel subjected to experiencing it and re-experiencing it and re-experiencing it over and over and over again frequently. What I was going to say, though, is what it reminds me of is the following, and I think that this sort of sums it all up. If the Arabs, the Palestinians would finally lay down their weapons, there'd be peace. If the Israelis would finally lay down their weapons, we'd be dead. And there's a difference there. There is a difference. You really want peace? We could have it. It's not, it's not waiting for us. Put it that way. It's not waiting for us, because we're there and we're at the table if they would ever come join us. Anyway, that is just a little bit of a news report. That's the news, folks. Now we can move on from the headlines. I want to wish a mazel tov. Now we can get to the real news. More importantly, I want to wish a mazel tov to our dear friends Sarah, Leah, and Yaniv Golumbek on the bar mitzvah this week of their son, Ami, which is very cute. I got up this morning to go, like I normally do on Mondays, to go up to read from the Torah, and somebody said, psst, get out of there, because the bar mitzvah boy is getting up there. So I was very excited, and I forgot, I didn't realize that he was ready to go, and boy, is he ready to go. It's very exciting. We're very happy for them. And also, we want to wish our condolences to Cheryl Mirup. I think I may have mentioned this. The funeral was yesterday. I want to wish the condolences to Cheryl Mirup on the loss of her mother of blessed memory. A couple of news announcements. Also in the news, very exciting news this week. There are a couple things going on locally in the Jewish community here. Number one, there is today and tomorrow, there is a crowdfunding event, fundraiser for Aish of the Rockies. Aish of the Rockies is an unbelievable outreach and Jewish community organization here, founded by Rabbi Yaakov and Chaya Meyer. And they are terrific, and they have a huge organization, a great staff. And anyone who would like to be part of supporting that worthy organization can go to aishrockies.com, I think it is. Not like, the Rockies, but aishrockies.com, not the baseball team. Okay. Don't get that wrong, Bob. All right. And aishrockies.com, and then support them. However, following that, that's today and tomorrow, but following that, there's another campaign that I want to tell you about as well on Wednesday and Thursday. And it's another crowd campaign, except it's not crowd funding. This campaign is crowd learning. It's a crowd learning campaign. This is I'm very excited to announce that it's a very innovative program of crowd fundraising, except there's no funds, no dollars, no pennies, no nickels. It is an effort, an organized effort by the Jewish Experience to gather together to raise 180,000 minutes of Torah learning. 180,000 minutes of Torah learning. So we're going to be knocking on doors, sending emails, carrier pigeons, and calling you up to see if you will participate and if you would contribute a few minutes to the campaign over 4 weeks. So let's say, for example, if you're in the habit of watching live at 5 and you recognize how much valuable Torah content there is, that's 30 minutes a week, even if it's just one day. If you watch 4 days a week, that would be 120 minutes a week. And we're doing it times 4 weeks. That would be 480 minutes. You would be such a macher, word of the day. Macher, okay, a macher is in Yiddish like someone who really makes it happen, and you could contribute minutes to the campaign of Torah study and done over 4 weeks, and then we're going to see hundreds of people gathering, 180,000 minutes. It's very exciting. It's our first, and the name of this campaign is Epic Sinai. You get your Epic Sinai pass. You get your Epic Pass in Colorado. We get your Epic Pass. This is an Epic Sinai pass, because it's your ticket to to the heights of Sinai, and we think that is a great way to gather together in advance of the holiday of Shavuos. Okay, and yes, you could read any kinds of books, you could watch any kinds of classes, you could go to a class if you're ready to get out of the house. There's a wonderful book, just as an example, from the son-in-law of our dear friend Tzivia Frieder, on the counting of the Omer. Wonderful book. And Tzivia, if you could post that something in the chat here, we could share that so everybody could take a look at that. And that's one of just many options. There's that. And there's live at 5, and there's Talmud classes, and there's happy hours, lunch and learns. There's all kinds of great things to do. A little bit of Torah together with the Jewish people. Now, this idea is so apropos on tomorrow. Wednesday. Starts on Wednesday. What is Wednesday? Wednesday is Rosh Chodesh Sivan. Okay, Rosh Chodesh Sivan, which means it's the first day of the Jewish month of Sivan. And Sivan is the month in which the holiday of Shavuos is celebrated. It's celebrated on the 6th day of the month of Sivan. And that holiday is the holiday in which we commemorate that the Jewish people, after they got out of Egypt, went to Mount Sinai, gathered around the mountain, and they received the Torah from God on the top of Mount Sinai. Now, it's an incredible holiday, incredible story. We'll talk about it a little bit more. That holiday is the 6th day of Sivan. Sivan starts Tuesday night, Wednesday, and on Sunday night and Monday is that beginning of that holiday, and then Monday night, Tuesday. And so it's a big Jewish holiday with a little bit undersold, as we started to talk about last week. So everyone, if you want, we're not live to launch yet, but get ready, count up your minutes, and pretty soon we're going to be live with the Epic Sinai. Get your Epic Sinai pass for the crowd learning campaign going on later in the week. Very exciting. Now the week that we're going into here is the last, sort of the final days of the count of the Omer. We're in the final week 7 of 7 weeks. Okay, 7 of 7 weeks. And the holiday of Shavuos, the word Shavuos means weeks. A Shavua is a week. So, after at the end of Shabbos, and the week is beginning, and it's the start of a new week, because Shabbos, generally speaking, we think of as the end of the last week. Just like it says the beginning of the Torah, God created the world for 6 days, rested on the 7th. So the 7th is the culmination and the end of the week. And then after sundown on Saturday night, we're starting a new week. And so we sing Shavua Tov, Shavua Tov, Shavua Tov, Shavua Tov. And it's a song that means have a good week. The holiday of Shavuos is plural. It's called weeks. It's the name of the holiday, if you will, is weeks, because it's celebrated as the final, or I guess the day right after we've counted 7 full weeks. Sheva Shabbosos Tamimos Tiena. The verse says, 7 full weeks shall they be. And when you finished 7 full weeks, then boom, the holiday of Shavuos is celebrated. This really is the only such holiday in the Torah. What do I mean, such holiday? The Torah doesn't tell you what day of the year the holiday of Shavuos falls on. It doesn't tell you. In fact, some years it could be different. It could be on the 5th, the 6th, or even the 7th day of the month of Sivan. Could be, depends on our months are somewhat flexible and fluid. It could be sometimes 29 days, sometimes 30, and depending on the number of days in the months between Passover and Shavuos, then the holiday of Shavuos could end up on one of 3 different possible dates in the calendar. And there's no other holiday like that. Normally it says the Torah, Rosh Hashanah is the 1st of Tishrei, and Yom Kippur is the 10th of Tishrei, and Passover is the 15th of Nisan. I mean, every calendar, it's like somebody will say, Rabbi, when's Hanukkah this year? I say, what do you mean, when is it? It's always the 25th of Kislev. What kind of question is that? So every holiday has its date in the calendar. But the reality is that Shavuos doesn't. Shavuos doesn't have to be any particular day. It has to be after counting 7 weeks from Passover. And so the real connection is drawn between Passover and Shavuos. It doesn't matter what date we're on, but it's 7 complete weeks have passed between Passover and Shavuos, and the next day is Shavuos. Now, those 7 complete weeks are like cycles, and we're in the final cycle. And each one of those cycles we've talked about connects us to one particular meaningful trait of godliness, characteristic of godliness. And what's number 7? The trait of malchus. Malchus is another word of the day. The word malchus means kingship, as if to say royalty. No? So royalty and kingship and sovereignty, these are certainly qualities that we ascribe to God, who we think of as the King of Kings, the Holy One, blessed be He, the King of Kings. If there are kings, He's the king of them. He's the king's king, right? He's the top of the charts of kings. And each and every one of us has a little bit of that inside us, in a sense. We have something about that we can be and emulate, and we can try to be more divine, more regal, could try to be more, a greater sovereign. How do we be more of a sovereign? Well, it would help for us to know what it means to be a king, in order that we could be a little more regal. What does it mean that to be a king? Well, first of all, it means you get to wear some great clothes, because the duds of the king, he get the best clothes, that's for sure. He wears the crown. He or she could have a queen, also royalty. He or she, they wear the crown, and maybe a big robe and some gorgeous purple things, and and probably a lot of gold and stuff like that. And why is it important to wear those things? There was a famous story of the king. The king has no clothes. That was a funny story, right? Because that's the opposite, the emperor. So that was the emperor, right, Andrew? True. The emperor, but like emperor king, same kind of sovereign deal. And that's like the total opposite of what a king is supposed to be. The king is supposed to be dressed always in a regal way. That was a shocker, in a sense. And there is an idea to dress with dignity. All of us can dress with dignity. We can this was something that took a real hit during the last year in the Corona era. As I think I mentioned, I saw the other day an advertisement for work sweatpants, when you have formal work sweatpants, because when you're sitting here, and there were a bunch of funny stories in the early part of the pandemic where people were in a business meeting or some other public meeting by Zoom at home in their living rooms. And then they would sort of get up, and they'd be wearing, only half an outfit, it's like, and unfortunately, it doesn't only happen on Zoom. I see people on the street wearing only half an outfit sometimes. I think they dress that way on purpose. We seem to have forgotten how to dress with appropriate human dignity. And the reality is that this is not unique to royalty. It should be something that each and every one of us strives for, which is to maintain a basic self-respect and human decency and dignity, that we dress in a, in an appropriate way, as opposed to, as my one of my teachers in his South African accent, he used to say, "It looks like she's about to go take a bath." That's just not the way we would want to dress. We would. So we one of the things that we can adopt, that we can try to express, that we can try to internalize and to be this week, is a little more dignified. And it's not just dress; it's also mannerisms and speech. That's the way that we speak, the things that we say, that can be more dignified. And I remember a story that I will that I'll share. That one time, my wife, who works in Aurora Public Schools, she's a speech pathologist. She's would allow me to share this short story. She was locked out of the building, and she didn't have any kind of a walkie-talkie, and she had to get buzzed back in. So she took out her cell phone, which she happened to have on her, and she called the secretary. And the secretary of the school, answered her call and picked up the phone with a stream of foul obscenities. And my wife was shocked, couldn't believe what was said. And then she said, "Hi, this is I'm locked out of the door. Can you let me in?" And the secretary said, "Ita? Like, if I'd have known that was you, I never would have said those things." And my wife felt, on the one hand, she said she felt obviously appalled, but on the other, she felt somewhat also happy that the response was, "Oh, I would never say those things to you. Other people, maybe. I mean, she got on the phone. She said all these awful things. She knew somebody was on the other end, but if I'd have known it was you, I never would have said those things." I remember there was a fellow, a rabbi, Benny Friedman. I think he's still a rabbi in Florida, and he served for a short period of time while he was an American. He served for a short period of time in the IDF, and he told many amazing stories. And I remember one of his stories. He and another soldier were on patrol one night, and they were walking around, security fence on patrol, and they're talking, because what else are you going to be doing? And it's a long night on watch. In the middle of their conversation, he realizes that his friend is telling him, an off-color joke. And he thought to himself, "I can't believe this guy would tell me an off-color joke." And then he thought to himself, I'll bet that if the senior rabbi were here in my shoes, he wouldn't tell him an off-color joke. So it's not shame on him, it's shame on me. Why doesn't he think I'm a person that he would think twice before he would tell me an off-color joke? If I would be the kind of person that you would know you shouldn't tell that kind of thing to, then people wouldn't say those kinds of things to me. And that's really the way that we should perhaps take this piece, which is, if we would act with our intrinsic human dignity, that we really all are royalty, and that we are a little bit of the divine soul, a little human king walking around on this planet. And if we would act like that, dress like that, speak like that, people would relate to us like that. That would be much more correct. They shouldn't treat us we shouldn't behave in a way that's cheap and lowly and self-demeaning. And people will respond in kind, certainly, and they would relate back to us with a great respect that we would ultimately like to have, and that is befitting of us, and that we will show everyone that they will demonstrate to them directly that they should interact with us that way, because we will lead with that degree of dignity. So that's a little thing to think about as we head towards this amazing holiday of Shavuos next week. This is the 7th week, and your 7th bit of homework this week is to work on upgrading your personal inner dignity, your inner sovereign, inner royalty. Let it all out, not let it hang out, but let your inner royalty be visible to all. That's our show for today, folks. Thanks so much for being with us. Have a healthy day and a holy day, and we'll see you tomorrow, God willing, on Live at 5.